a mí me Okay. Well, thank you for the invitation. Uh, for me, it's a challenge to give a talk for musicians. Musicians, I work more on the environmental and, well, as you will see, more on the eco-technology realm. Uh, but, well, I think we are all together in this facing some of the very important challenges and opportunities that I would like to share with you, and hopefully you enjoy the presentation. At least it's a way of, I hope, of inspiring new thoughts and particularly new sounds and music from you that is something we really need. And just to, before beginning my talk, I was thinking when listening to the previous presentation, you know that the first, one of the key breakthroughs in the environmental movement in the 60s, the author was a woman, and the name of the book, she wrote a book, the name is Silent Spring. And it was because of the death in thousands of birds because of the DDT. No, DDT is a very powerful pesticide, now forbidden. But so I was thinking, wow, it's a very powerful and very convenient way of introducing my talk. So sound has been always so critically connected, no, to nature and to our survival in this planet. So let me begin with my talk. And this, what I show here is iconic graph. It's called it's from a publication that talks about the boundaries, planetary boundaries. And what it means is everything that is sustainable, no, should be in this donut, so in this green space. And what we have here are different dimensions, no, of problems or environmental dimensions that go out there to the exterior, and then social dimensions that go inside the circle. So the thing is, if we go up, if everything that is red in the diagram means that we are in trouble. No? The more environmental things that we are in trouble, the larger these red diagrams, these pies, no, are larger, and the same with the social issues. No, so what it means is that we are in trouble in several dimensions. No, as you know, climate change, biodiversity loss, land use change, nitrogen and phosphorus loading because of the chemical fertilizers, but also we are in trouble in many of the things related to health, education, poverty, peace, and justice. No, so the idea is that we have to then to move. How do we move from this present situation that is also increasing, worsening, no, both in the environmental side and in the social side, to moving, no, inside and getting into this is called the safe and just space for humankind. No? And the problem is that, so, or my talk really is about how then moving or from this the present situation that is oriented to growth, consumption, globalized competition, individualism, inequity, centralized and top-down governance, and as we will see, fossil fuel, a very high dependence on fossil fuels, to a different world, to a different kind of economic system, and I would say different kind of civilization, let's say, that is more oriented to the growth, or it's called buen vivir in Spanish, sufficiency, localization, cooperation, equity, decentralized and bottom-up governance, and local renewables. So this is, I'm part of a larger, of a school of thought that thinks that the present continuing with this logic that is basically the basic logic of the capitalist system is not sustainable, and we really need to go into a different direction. So it's not just a quantitative change, it's a qualitative change of the way we relate to nature and to ourselves. And I will, the rest of the talk, the first part, I will show you why I think the present situation is, we are in a particular crisis that needs, as I said, a qualitative response from society. And then the second part is going to be about the way I think we can go. So this is another iconic graph that was used to argue that we are in a new geological era that is called the Anthropocene, Antropoceno in Spanish. And this is, imagine, geological era means that we have make a qualitative change in the state of the planet. No? And they use this graph that shows different, about 23 indicators related to all many basic things related, for example, population, water use, paper consumption, number of vehicles, and also the related impacts, no? CO2 emissions, the temperature of the earth, extinction of species. And if you see the common feature is that they all grow exponentially. So particularly after the post-Second World War is what is this period is called the Great Acceleration. And what the world has been witnessing is an escalation, no? An exponential growth of all of these indicators and the corresponding, some of the corresponding problems, no, associated with it. That is, on the one hand, the concentration of wealth. We will see some graph about it. An increase in, we have 900 million people that are hungry. At the same time, 2 billion people that have overweight problems, obesity. Then cities that are completely crowded and unsustainable. About more than 2 billion tons of garbage that is thrown to the ecosystem every year. 80% of our energy system depends on fossil fuels, and so on. No? We can go into different, the different social, ecological, and even material elements. And so the idea is that as a result of this acceleration and this exponential growth of impacts in a world that is has limits, no? We have a world that has limits, but we are consuming like the planet was infinite, no? So we are facing three parallel crises. A material crisis that I will discuss briefly in a minute, no? But basically is that we cannot keep growing because we have passed the peak oil, and we are facing a peak of raw materials. An ecological crisis that I just showed, but the classic example now is climate change. And the social crisis that is a growing inequality, no, in consumption and pollution, etc. No, so we have to deal with these three simultaneous crises. And I will show you some pictures that basically I'm not trying to. I will not describe them in detail, but just so you see the trends, no. And again, as the first graph I show, look, this is the energy use. Through time, no? This is from the Industrial Revolution to the present, and the carbon emissions, CO2 emissions, and the temperature of the concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere. And so you see that they all are growing very fast, and they are about 80%. The responsibility for that is the fossil fuels that constitute 80% of the global energy use, and 70% of all the emissions from the burning of fossil fuels. I don't need to go into the details about climate change, but you know that is considered the most critical global problem at the moment, no? And it's so important and so critical that the only way to avoid catastrophic consequences for the Earth is to go from the current use. Remember, I showed you the increasing, no, the exponential increase in emissions, and this is just the extrapolation to the 2030. So, let's say the blue line over there. So we need to make a very sharp cut in emissions, and the only sustainable scenario is here, is to pursue what is called a 1.5 degree Celsius increase in temperature by the end of the century. And to do that, we need to go, imagine, from 50 billion, so 50 mil millones de toneladas, 50 billion tons of CO2 to zero in less than 30 years. So it's a lot, and it's a lot thinking that all the combustion of fossil fuels involve emissions. No? So this means that we really need to decarbonize completely the economy. No? And this is where we are going now. This is the Paris Accords. Maybe some of you know about this. This is what has been agreed. We are not even in this trajectory, but this has been agreed, and this is what we need. No? So it's really, we are not going the way we need. And what is why the problem is so complicated? No? Well, part of it is because we have very different contrasting situations regarding the emissions per capita. So, for example, in red is the many countries, like, for example, US, Canada, for example, in Europe, etc. They emit a lot more than other countries, like in Africa, for example, no, 10 or more times more than some countries. Also, there's a group of countries that, like the 23 richest, have emitted historically the same as 100 other countries. No, so how can we account for the responsibilities? And now we are talking even about the differences within countries, not just among countries, but what is the inequalities has grown so fast that now the richest 1% of people in the world consume or emit more than 1,000 times more than these people here at the bottom. So the average, just to see, you have an idea, is about 5 tons of CO2 per capita in the world. The emissions are equivalent to 2 international flights per year. So if you already spent one coming to Mexico, think about it. The second one. So it means, imagine, we are already above, and I mean we, because here are the income brackets also for developing countries. No? So there is so the responsibility is not equally distributed. So who has to commit to the reductions? No? That makes a lot of problem in the international arena. For example, and then there are some myths that are not that are part of the discourse but are not true. For example, we always see this myth that technology will save the world, no? And then the reality is that technology has, evolved, and then this is a map, a graph showing the history of the evolution of the GDP, no, economic output of the per capita through different different times, and you see the technology associated, no, from the Industrial Revolution, the trains, electricity, cars, computers, and now the internet. But at the same time, the technology has not helped to reduce the gap between the rich, the northern, the industrialized countries and the periphery, but the gap is increasing. No? And as I told you before, well, the wealth is uh, very bad distributed. No, only 1% of the population owns almost 50% of the wealth. And what is also happening is that we tend to see this is something coming from the people that know about geology, and it has to do with the way the type of resources we use. No, so at the beginning, when one finds a resource, it's very easy to extract. No, there's a lot, it's abundant, etc. No, but then as you begin to exploit the resources, it gets more and more difficult to extract, no? More costly, then you need to use more sophisticated technology. So 100 years before the present, the oil, you dig a hole on the soil, and then you got these oil fields. Now you have to do this 7 kilometers to go through in the bottom of the sea, doing these platforms, the fracking that is terrible, and also the mining, no, that was done manually almost 100 years before. Now these are the people, no? These are big trucks like buildings, no? And imagine this is what is done, the way it is done, the mining of copper, etc. What it means is that we are now facing more and more difficult times in terms of the energy that needs to be put to get the resources. So it's not like, many times in the economy we think, no, we have, we still have more resources. We have some extra resources, but each unit of them will cost more in terms of the environment and the energy. Now, faced with this situation, we have the very, I will be here for the time of the talk, I will try to be extreme, let's say, but we are facing two different paths. One path is the conventional wisdom, no, that tells us that we can continue with the status quo, so doing more of the same, but now green, no? What does it mean? Green growth, green economy, Green Deal, green energy. I'm sure you have heard about this. And basically, it's a future where it is will base in a lot will be based on technology, basically digital, large-scale renewables, geoengineering. We can talk about that at the end of the talk if you like, but they involve it's big projects involving like putting, for example, CO2 exhaust that is emitted to the atmosphere into the deep mines and the sea. So mirrors on the outer in the stratosphere to cover to avoid the light of the sun, etc. No, and basically on the social side, well, this is a corporate-driven, top-down type of projects that follow what we call an extractive logic. No, so it's basically continuing with the same model, but now we talk about electric cars, wind energy, solar panels, these type of things. No, but there are many problems with this. No, and I will just talk about one dimension, that is the energy dimension, and basically is that. And let me clear about this: the future involves renewables, but not any kind of renewable energy. Why? Because in this logic, this green growth or Green Deal logic assumes that the renewables can be used the same way that we use fossil fuels. So basically, it's just a matter of replacing the current pattern of oil use with renewables. Basically, with two types of renewables: very large solar and wind, solar panels and wind, wind energy. Electric vehicles is a lot about cars for the transportation sector. So you know, many companies now have the goal of replacing totally the combustion engine by the electric vehicles. And all is based on large-scale projects owned by the same corporations. By the way, some of these corporations are oil corporations that now are shifting to the renewables because it's big, good business. No, however, there are many problems with this. No, first, there is a high dependency of fossil fuels to build the infrastructure. So, for example, you see there the solar panels, but the solar panels are not built with solar energy. They are built with fossil. So you need a lot of fossil fuels to really put these technologies in place. No, you need a lot of mining because, and this, I'm sorry, I think you cannot see very well this graph, but basically it's the difference. It shows how many kilograms of different critical minerals you need for an electric car, compared to a combustion engine. That the black dots are a combustion engine. So electric cars need a lot more of these minerals, and particularly of some of them that are very, very rare in the earth. In particular, for example, 9 kilograms of lithium. No, each electric car needs 9 kilograms of lithium. So where are they coming? This is a cobalt mine in the Congo. 90% of the cobalt comes from this type of mining, where they use child labor, etc. No? So what is the logic with this project? Well, to continue with this land grabbing, displacement, and exploitation of local people, etc. And of course, this is a top-down approach where local people really do not get the benefits. No, it's again about keeping the profits. It's called like you get the damage, but you don't get the profit, no, or the benefit. So as I said, there's a new, another current of thought, where more and more academics and activists and people from different social, environmental, even artists, etc., are coming, and is called degrowth or post-growth or buen vivir. Basically, is a new movement that emphasizes this how can we get into the different means that we can get into this donut. No, remember from the first graph, into this safe and just space for everybody. How can we avoid overconsumption, no? The environmental and sustainability, and at the same time, how can we avert also this inequality, poverty, and socially unsustainable world? No? And so basically, it's as I said at the beginning, no, it's a shift from thinking about growth, global corporate standardized, violent competition, male-dominated world to degrowth, local, democratic, diverse, self-sufficient, just, non-violent, cooperative, adaptation, resilient, gender equity type of society. Of course, I'm not saying that it's a black and white situation, but it's trying to go in putting these new concepts as the dominant concepts in society. And the thing is, can it be done? Is it possible? Well, there's as I said, a really very interesting and growing literature that shows that yes, it is possible to do it. Of course, it involves many challenges, in particular political and social challenges, but at least in terms of of what we can achieve with these new strategies is very different. No, for example, the growth emphasizes these 9 principles, no, that have to do with, for example, respect to local people, balanced and sustainable use of land, a lot more about getting a balance, also relationship, harmonic between rural and urban populations. So the idea is to give rural people more the rural areas in particular, no? A larger role avoiding this shifting and this migration and this growing of unsustainable growth of cities, no? That's why generation of opportunities at the local level, universal education, energy, local energy resources, at the food production, following agroecological production and eco-technologies. I will show you a little bit about that. And so basically, no, maybe you have heard about the circular economy principles, no? Recirculating, for example, waste instead of recycling, but not just recycling, but also reducing and reuse and reduce. No, this type of things are the new principles. No, there I'm showing the others: local production, sharing, so more on sufficiency rather than consuming and consuming. No, as the important the goal. No, and I will show three transitions that we need as an example, and maybe to promote some discussion at the end of the talk, and have to do with three key elements of this this shift in civilizational shift. No? One has to do with sustainable mobility. Transportation is about 40% of total emissions come from the transport sector, so we really need to do something about it. More than 90% also from the transportation comes currently from fossil fuels. We need a just and fair energy transition, no? In general, the way energy is produced and used, and the food, we need this agroecological transition on food production systems. No? So let me show why and what are some of the alternatives. First, talking about sustainable mobility. Okay, so I think it's clear, no, in this case, that I don't like the cars in particular, but but the truth is, even now Mexico has approved a new Tesla plant here in Mexico, and there's a lot talking about electric cars. The truth is that electric cars, first, if electricity like in Mexico is produced a lot with fossil fuels, the net impact in emissions, maybe you are better at the local level in the cities, not regarding space, because we will have this could be all electric vehicles. No, we will have the same crowded space, but let's say emissions at the local level will go down, but not total emissions, country emissions. No, but also what is really more worrying about the electric vehicles is that the ecological footprint. So this means when you include all this, the mining of minerals, land use for the different type of elements and etc., you see that even if the for example, a Tesla, no, you buy a Tesla and you produce your own electricity with solar panels, the environmental, the footprint is huge. So really, the only sustainable alternative is to move the whole transportation system into a public, and this, yes, can be electric, but a public transportation system, and a lot more into biking and walking. No? And there are many alternatives. We can talk about them, but this is something that can be done. But of course, now the focus is here because the money is here. By the way, we are putting a lot of public money into cars that are going to benefit the richest. No, this is something we really need to think carefully. The second one has to do with energy, and I don't know the experience in Europe, but the experience here in Mexico has been that the renewable projects that are really an opportunity for Mexico depends. 90% of the energy comes from fossil fuels, but unfortunately, this in the government before this one, there was a push to renewable energy projects, but they were done through these we call mega projects, large projects, wind farms and solar panels that were basically owned by these large corporations. These are two examples there, without really taking care about this. This is, for example, the same wind farm and the way people live in the houses that are, in fact, these people own the land where these wind farms are established. No? So the benefits have not really got to these people. And so we need to ask, energy for what, energy for whom, who decides, who benefits, who gets the impact. No? And there's a very different way to go. And this is this is a new movement. It's something that is called distributed energy. And I'm showing examples from from the very local indigenous communities in Mexico. This is a planning, a 40-year planning that is community, well, a cooperative of people in Mexico, indigenous people have done. That's very interesting exercise, doing mapping and thinking about the 40 years into the future, no, and thinking about imagining and thinking what could be a local energy future, no. And this is from Europe, no, where 2 million people already they participate in what is called energy communities or energy cooperatives, no. So the idea is that instead of giving these large-scale companies all the, of course, there will be some projects for them, but basically is that we will emphasize small and medium-scale projects managed by local cooperatives instead of the typical corporations or enterprises, using participatory design, where we can, when local people will be involved from the design and the maintenance and the operation, no? And the idea is to create energy prosumers. This means producers and consumers. So you can produce your own energy, for example, in your roof, and at the same time, if you are a cooperative, you can sell that energy to the grid and get a profit. And the profit can be used for social purposes, no? For example, in the communities, for lighting the school, the communal space, this type of things, no? These are some examples, not involving just electricity. This is also very important. Electricity is only part of the energy needs. We really need heat, and we need the mechanical energy. So these are examples from different parts of Mexico where we are working, or where we and other organizations are working, trying to push this new approach. No? And they have to do with solar dryers, solar heaters, panels, but for pumping water for irrigation, efficient wood stoves, cook stoves, because in Mexico, fuel wood is used by 28 million people mostly in the rural area. No? So this is just a brief example. Basically, well, what we do with these projects, no, is I'm using one of that we have worked from many years, and it's called this participatory innovation process. No? So we begin with the understanding of user needs. This can be done not only in the rural areas, it's done also with the urban users. So we then go and we work together, no? Co-creating solutions, then training and follow-up and monitoring to assure that the different options that have been chosen are working the way they should. And then we can even continue and create some local cooperatives doing capacity building and building supply chains so the system can operate in the sustainable through time. No? So this is another example. And this, because it's time to eat, is it's about food. And, well, not very good news for those that are not like me, we are not vegetarians. So look at this graph. It's a kind of difficult to check the numbers, but basically what you see is the size of the bar is the impact on the environment, no? On emissions coming from this particular type of food. So these are all different type of meals. Basically on the top, the very, very top is red meat, and the emissions is 60 tons of carbon CO2 equivalent per meal. And here are vegetables, so they go as low as zero point 0.3 for zero point 0.4 for apples. No, so what figure, the problem is that the food system accounts for 50% of global greenhouse gas emissions. No, it's a lot, and we can do a lot also by just shifting the from these more meat based diets to vegetables. No, so red meat and fast food have 20 to 60 times larger impacts on emissions than this more vegetarian uh, diet. But also regarding vegetarian, even now that with this vegan boom, no, this not all always no is not any vegan diet is not the same. If you go to vegetables, but you still rely a lot on international food, no, vegetables that come from other countries, your impact is 5 to 10 times larger than eating local food. No, so it's really something that we need to keep in mind. Changing to a vegetarian diet will help feed 3 billion people more in this world. So we need to reduce, you know what. Okay, and so what are the alternatives? Again, this is interesting because it's a new, it's exploding worldwide. I'm showing pictures from cities, not only from Mexico. Some markets are from Spain and other places where basically the idea is to build this what is called local cooperatives of consumption production. So you connect farmers, and this I'm showing pictures from a local network called Red City, where local small producers of maize in Mexico are connected to local women that produce, convert this corn into a variety of products that are very, very, very good. I assure you, tortillas, gorditas, and many other things, and they sell this into the urban markets. No, they have this cooperative, and so through this type of approach, then you achieve several goals. No, biodiversity conservation. You create local and decent jobs because women also earn more. You create value added. No, women empowerment, health improvement because they use now, for example, ecological stoves instead of the open fires. And while we are using renewable energy and mitigating climate change. No? So I think it's the idea to have different benefits coming from an approach. No? So with this, let me finish. No, saying again that I think that the present dominant economic model, particularly basic on this growth, no, thinking that growth is the basic thing we need to continue. No, economic growth is the basis of everything, particularly increasing consumption. No, well, economic growth goes hand to hand with increasing consumption is completely unsustainable. No, and I think more than ever we need to build other imaginaries of social change and society. I think what you are doing with music and sound is very important in this new road. And I'm really I have been always very worried about thinking that we live in a system where we are basically consumers. No, before persons, human beings, we are consumers. No, and so we will have to seek to reduce consumption inequities, make the most efficient use of local resources, technologies, and particularly a lot more diverse and appropriated to the local context. Well, with this, thank you very much.
Muchas gracias. Any questions? No? No questions? Okay. You are sad because you are sad because Visiones is ending? Okay. Okay. So many thanks,